Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, or should I say, good-eye? No, I shouldn't, because I'm sure Australians are very sick of hearing people do really rubbish attempts at their accents, but yes. Obviously, as you can tell by that intro and this flag, it is the turn of Australia to come under my thumb. I'm going to review the Australian song. Once again, just like last year, Australia will be represented by Miss Jessica Cerro. I don't know if I'm supposed to roll the R, but I'm going to. She's better known by her stage name Montaigne. See, I can pronounce it properly. And the song Technicolour. Now, you might be wondering, hey Tess, you're usually very au fait with what shirts you wear. You're a fashionable young dude. Why aren't you wearing a more colourful shirt for a song called Technicolour? Well, this shirt is black, grey, white and purple, and that is my Technicolour. I don't know if that's the song's intention, but I'm making a statement, yeah. Anyway, music and lyrics by Montaigne herself, as well as Dave Hammer, which is a really cool name, by the way, and it's fully in English, which is more or less what we'd expect. So, yeah, Australia, show me what you got. Well, as you might recall, if you've been following my videos for a while, Australia was my personal winner of the 2020 lineup, so Montaigne kinda had big boots to fill for me this year. Admittedly, Technicolour didn't have quite the same initial impact on me as Don't Break Me did, but as I have been keen to just keep reminding you at every opportunity I get, it is not fair to judge the songs of this year by comparing them to the songs of last year. That being said, where I've ended up landing here is more a place of appreciation than anything else. Like, I think this is indisputably a solidly composed song, and it is absolutely going on my personal playlist, but for me personally, it doesn't hit me with quite the same profundity as last year. In a way, that's good, because it demonstrates that I'm not biased, but at the same time, I don't want that, not disappointment but you know kind of thing to colour my review of the song. Oh, and by the way, I already know about the time to take off your cloaks line. I saw how some people misheard it. I saw Montaigne's explanation on Twitter. That ship has long since sailed, don't you worry about that. So with that out of the way, let's move on with the review. First things first, as ever, let's dive in with one of the song's biggest strengths, the flavour of its instrumentation, so to speak. I know this won't mean much to too many people, but in the same way that I compared the instrumentation of the Czech song of 2019 to the soundtrack of Knuckles Chaotix for the Sega 32X, this song's soundscape reminds me rather of Sonic CD for the Sega CD system. I think it was called the Mega CD. It was a long time ago, don't blame me, I'm making an obscure reference here that no one's going to fully appreciate. I know that sounds really weird and really niche of me to talk about, but I feel like it demonstrates a lot here. The sound here is very unique, very distinctive, and as a direct consequence, persistently memorable. The song's got identity, you feel, and I feel like that's kind of what it's going for. Naturally, Montaigne herself is a great asset in that department as well. Just like last year, arguably more so now that she's not having to contend with the traditional mime kind of choreography as well, she has brought her A-game in the vocals department. In this particular instance, the harmonies remind me quite a bit of Imogen Heap. The higher notes, the interplay between head, chest, and whistle notes remind me of Marina and the Diamonds. Both of these artists are held in high regard for their artistry, and this, once again, demonstrates that Montaigne is worthy of the same treatment, in my opinion. I'm sure there are other artists you could compare her to as well, like Florence and the Machine. And I should stress that these comparisons are to highlight that Montaigne is just as credible an artist. This isn't me saying, oh, she's just trying to be them. She's not trying to be anyone, she's doing her own thing, and I think she deserves credit for it. Anyway, on the lyrical front, meanwhile, I dare say she's done Australia proud once again. Not to continue comparing to last year by any means, but once again, we have a song that has a lot of words delivered at a fair pace that are deep in meaning, clever in articulation, satisfying in cadence, and rich in originality. Despite it presenting its concept in a fairly complex way, the song has a clear message and sentiment that comes across nevertheless. And it seems, to me at least, all the more effective hearing it do so without the middleman of having to be dumbed down or for its vernacular to be made more common first in order to make that connection. All this is to say, Every facet of this song very much screams, this is a Montaigne production, but not in a cheap brand-centric way. Rather, the whole package, while slick, polished, and spectacular, still comes across as sincere, authentic, and written and presented from the heart. Montaigne, as I said, is an artist with a capital A. I think we'd do well to respect her. Still, having said that, that doesn't mean that you are obliged to like the song, and here are just some suggestions as to why some people might feel that way. Oh, and before I get going here, I have to preempt something. Yes, I think the key change at the end feels unnecessary, but I don't think it's particularly badly handled, and I don't feel as though it was forced in just as an attempt at being attention-seeking, like in some songs, so I'm not going to mention that here. What I will say, though, is I can totally understand if someone were to take issue with the punchy, staccato, midnight is the hour parts of the song. Depending on your tastes, you could argue that those are the weakest areas in the lyrical body. You might argue that they sound contrived, but your mileage will ultimately vary with that. In the simplest terms, though, you might feel that those parts add impact and intrigue, and, call attention to the oncoming refrain, or you might feel that they're jarring, distracting, and ultimately immersion-destroying. It depends on how you personally feel. While I'm personally okay with them on a conceptual level, I do worry about how they might come across live. The song already calls for several different changes of timbre and quite a bit of vocal proficiency, and there is a rather sharp drop from singing lyrics to then delivering the punchiness of those parts. That disparity may or may not prove difficult to handle on the night, meaning that the tone might turn out a little bit off, shaky. It's hard to explain quite what I mean, but in short, I fear that it might sound like she lacks conviction, just not for an actual lack of conviction, but because of how her voice suddenly has to hit that particular feeling so suddenly as a juxtaposition from how she was going before that. Does that make any sense? And a little something else regarding the live performance aspect. This is one of those songs that I worry about drowning on stage. The video on the Eurovision channel does seem a bit like the stage she had to work with was a little bit restrictive, and I worry about how it might translate onto a larger stage, the sort of scale that we're used to at Eurovision proper. The song is, after all, in one of those keys that can, depending on who you are and how you feel, induce brain fog. That effect and the use of the stage may work to the song's benefit, but it may work to the song's detriment, and really I have no idea how to go about remedying that beyond just hoping it never comes up in the first place. Again, I hope I'm making sense here. In the meantime, let's get some numbers going. It almost feels like a betrayal on my part, but I'll give this song an 8 out of 10 for me for my personal score, for the time being. I can easily see this song growing on me between now and May, and it wouldn't be fair of me to dock it points just directly because of me comparing it to how much I liked Don't Break Me. I do think that this is a fun bop, and I would be happy to see it do well. It's just that, when all's said and done, I appreciate it more than I like it, and I want to like it more than I do, but I do still like it if you follow my drift, if you catch my meaning. Like, it's a good song, I feel like it's my opinion that is letting the side down here, For the technical side, at least, I think I can make amends with a 9 out of 10. I think that Montaigne's artistry and vocal talents deserve so much praise and recognition because they really elevate this song. She showcases range not just in terms of the raw notes that she hits, but in terms of where the voice comes from. As I said, chest voice, head voice, whistle notes, it's all there. And that takes a not insignificant amount of talent and proficiency to be able to pull off at all. My chief fears here are the song, especially live, retaining the attention of audience members who are less taken in by it due to the length and frequency of some of the notes in the refrain, the sharpness of the almost spoken word pre-refrain bridges, and the almost futurist kind of vocal harmonies. It could go one of two ways when it hits the stage, but I'm hoping that the odds are in Australia's favour. In the meantime, though, let's take a quick look at how Australia's EBU member broadcaster handled last year's contest falling through. Obviously, SBS did the right thing here. Australia is another country where the national format is new and large and a bit of an investment on the broadcaster's part, so once again, I would understand if the higher-ups at SBS wanted to hurry up and build on that brand. I'm incredibly heartened to hear that that's not what they did this year. After all, I seem to recall hearing that Montaigne was rather devastated by the news of the contest's cancellation, and understandably so, don't get me wrong. So, having SBS internally select her to make up for it comes as even more of a good thing. Ditching her in favour of a national final would just have been kicking her while she was down anyway. But now, back to the present. Do I think Australia will qualify this year? I've heard some people expressing doubts, but I'm personally optimistic. At this point in time, I believe there is still a market for televoters to want to vote for Australia just for the sheer novelty of it, which isn't fair, but hey, points are points. Similarly, this is yet another high-quality song in a string of high-quality entries from Australia. Juries know to expect that, and considering how much I've praised Montaigne as an artist thus far, common sense would dictate that they would score her accordingly. The wild card in all of this is the knowledge that Australia will perform in the first half of the first semi-final, which is shaping up to be the one to watch according to the fandom. There's going to be stiff competition for those coveted places in the final, and since this isn't one of the top of the betting odds everyone's talking about it fan favourites, that does mean that Montaigne may have a fight on her hands for a place in the top 10, but I personally have absolute faith in her, especially if the staging lets her shine like she deserves to. But that's just me. As always, I will throw it over to you lovely people, listen to the song for yourself, have your own original thoughts, and if you want to have a conversation, the comments section is very much open. In the meantime, though, to Montaigne, to Team Australia, I wish you the very best of luck. I would like to see you in the final, and I don't know, I feel like your staging is going to blow me away as well, but that's just a hunch at this point. We'll see what you bring in May.